Okay, everyone. Should I do it like this? Perfect. Hello, future Sun Devils. We are currently at Semiconductor Day at ASU. My name is Caden Ryback. I have been working on the team now for a month and have now been making some content for future Sun Devils. This event specifically was something that we were called into because it's a big industry at ASU where there are a lot of opportunities for students across all majors to get involved in the semiconductor industry, whether that be you're actually in a STEM program or if you're in some major that you think is completely unrelated. There's a lot of different opportunities to get involved in parts of the semiconductor industry that you might not even know about. So today we're going to be going through and interviewing some of the folks that are at this event. ASU invited a bunch of different industry leaders who are operating in Arizona, who are operating throughout the world in the semiconductor industry. As you might know, Arizona in particular has become a huge semiconductor manufacturing hub. There has been so much investment in the state to build up the semiconductor manufacturing abilities of Arizona. We actually have one of the largest investments, if not the largest investment, by a foreign entity into the United States to build the Taiwanese semiconductor manufacturing plant that's in North Phoenix. So Arizona is a hotspot for this kind of industry. And a lot of different companies are attracted to come out here because there is a lot of land where they're able to develop and build these massive semiconductor facilities where they're building these chips. But obviously it takes a ton of resources and it takes a lot of manpower too to actually have a workforce that is trained to do that. And so that's where ASU comes in. And so ASU over the last few years has made semiconductor training those professionals who can work in that industry a big focal point of the university. We've had a lot of investment from different companies within Arizona from throughout the world that have partnered with ASU to actually help train students to get the skills that they need to be involved in semiconductor manufacturing. And that's not just STEM majors, right? That's other folks who can get involved too. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're actually going to be speaking with some of these folks at semiconductor companies who are here today at Semiconductor Week. And we're going to be speaking with them about ways that students can get involved and become part of what the semiconductor industry is becoming in Arizona. So we're going to hop into those interviews in just a moment. I'm going to hop back on the video here in just a second, and we'll hopefully have our first interview in a few minutes. Thank you, guys. Hey, future Sun Devils. So, a little bit more about Semiconductor Day. We are on the Tempe campus at the Memorial Union filming this. I'm sitting next to the window. It's on the second floor in a few different of the rooms that are up here. If you're coming throughout the week, because this is just one day, that's part of the entire week of events that are all dedicated to semiconductor industry career opportunities and learning about the different skills that you can need to get into the industry. Really an opportunity to just connect to every single day. It's having its own schedule, but things that you can expect. They're holding different speaking series with folks who are in industry, talking about the growth of it in Arizona, talking about ways that you can get involved. There's opportunities to network with each one of these companies in some of the ballrooms that they have here. They've set up tables. We're actually going to go walk around and show you some of that later. And then they even have resume building like sessions where you can actually meet with some of these industry leaders and talk with them about like, hey, this is what your resume looks like, and this is how you can build it to make it better. So we're going to get our first interview started here soon.
All right, ready?
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's get started. All right, we're live.
Alrighty, folks. Sweet. Hey, can you tell us a little bit your name and then the company you work for, why you guys are here for Semiconductor Day?
Yeah, my name is Nicole Larson. I work for Brooksource. We're an IT and engineering staffing and consulting firm. We're here specifically because we're starting to build out relationships within the semiconductor industry. Specifically, it's me going to be building out those partnerships. I went to ASU, so it makes sense for me to be here today to kind of meet the future of the semiconductor industry and the future of ASU and our engineering students. So.
Awesome. Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, exciting stuff. So with all that being said, when you're meeting all these students, what are some of those top like skills that you notice that you're like, oh, this is the kind of student who I think would really be a good fit for an internship or a job opportunity? What is like that top skill that you kind of see as being like a very attractive one for a candidate?
I would say a big skill set that I look for is having hands-on experience. I think working in projects and being able to talk about the projects that they've worked on and things that they've built out is super important. In experience of resumes and reviewing those things, a big thing that I look for is having those projects, to be able to have them walk me through it too and understand what they did, the product that they built out in every aspect, and even maybe who they interacted with, who they're getting requirements from, how they're understanding and going about their work.
So it sounds like basically someone who is able to show you, like, break it down for me, how did this project work?
Yes.
So it almost says like, so thoroughness, and then also so the ability to actually describe a big project.
Exactly, and I come from that recruiting world, so typically the people that you're talking to on my end aren't super technical, so when you kind of give that blur of technical skills, we're kind of like, like you're hitting those buzzwords. So being able to talk through a project and say how you got from point A, just kind of, starting at the beginning, to actually like building out the product and completing it, and the people that you interacted with, if you're talking to stakeholders, who those main conversations you're having is super important, and being able to talk. So, I mean, obviously, typical engineering roles, being able to communicate is still super important. Having those soft skills, we have a program that we do to kind of help buff up soft skills, but having soft skills makes a miles of difference.
Good stuff. And tell me a little bit, so if I'm not wrong, you're an ASU alumni?
I am, yes.
So what's the kind of journey for you in semiconductor?
I mean, honestly, It happened kind of randomly. My mom was previously in the consulting and staffing world, so I definitely was inspired by my mom.
And that's your also consulting and staffing, but you majored in what at ASU?
I majored in communications and digital media, so I definitely didn't start in consulting and staffing. I wanted to do something a little bit different than my mom, but to realize, you know what, mom was successful for a reason. I really like what she did, and it was really fun. Exactly. Yeah. And then kind of when I entered my company, I had said, like, this is what I want to do, and I want to go after semiconductors. I think semiconductor is a huge industry within America right now, and especially here in Arizona. And that was kind of the partnerships that I wanted to build out in the industry that I wanted to be a part of.
So tell me, there's two things here that I think are so interesting and that I think specifically makes your story so important for future students to hear, is that you came from a degree background that one would not typically associate with the semiconductor industry. So there are those opportunities. Can you tell us a little bit more about specifically what your job looks like on a day-to-day basis, and what you would say to students who aren't involved in the semiconductor industry, at least in those kind of like majors that you would typically associate with it, people who aren't in like any of those STEM fields? How can they get into it? What are those opportunities for them?
So personally, I'm not doing that kind of like engineering side. I'm in a sales role, so I love my job. My job is super fun. I get to take people out to dinner, form relationships, we go golfing, and I'm just kind of their go-to person when they need those staffing initiatives or they need kind of to build out a consulting aspect to maybe a merger or something. So that's where my job plays, and it's really fun, and I get to learn from really intelligent people. My dad's an engineer. A lot of the people that I've been friends with while I was at ASU were engineers. Actually, quite a few of them are graduates from ASU and have entered the semiconductor industry, ironically, which kind of got me piqued and interested into it. But for me personally, I know that with our program Elevate, we do upskill and reskill people and get them those certifications to kind of get them into that market, possibly that they weren't previously playing in. We have a project called Project Patriot, where we work with veterans, and we're working with the Community College of Maricopa and ASU to kind of build up their semiconductor industry through veterans. So there definitely is a lot of ways to still get into semiconductor if you don't have a degree, or you can do what I do and do the sales aspect and get to learn from all the really smart, fun people and just get to take them out to dinner and have fun.
Yeah.
That makes it seem silly, but
no, but it's true. But it's also like, think about those other kind of like fun career opportunities that you might not initially expect. And for people who, and I didn't even say this for myself, and maybe this is the case for you, but I was never a numbers person. So I mean, like, I was like, when I think of the semiconductor industry, I certainly was never even crossed my mind, because I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I'm not a STEM major, and I'm not a numbers person. But then to hear that there are things that I think would cater, what it sounds like your role is, it's something that caters more to somebody who is exceptional in those soft skills and being able to build those relationships and even being able to break down like some complicated concepts. So those career opportunities are still available, 100%. And it's a good option.
Yes, there's endless options really within, I think, semiconductor industry. Even being a BA, like being able to be business analyst or project manager, like those are roles that can come from less technical backgrounds, and being a recruiter, I can see me place someone who has no technical background, didn't major in something like that, but they buffed up those skills working at different positions, and now are kind of in that direction, and we can get them seated at a company in maybe kind of like a medium level role, and give them the upping of skills to get them to where they need to be. So they're, staying at the company happy. That's our main approach, is we want to make sure our candidates and our consultants and customers are all so happy with who's working at the job, they're making the right amount, and they're learning the things that they'd like to learn.
Yeah, that's great. It's fantastic. And so the one last question I have for you, because you alluded to it, and I was wondering if it's something that you could expand on a little bit. You talked about how like the semiconductor industry is obviously huge across the country, but Arizona has specifically become like a hotspot for it, really.
It has, yes.
Why is that? What does that growth look like even over just the past like 10 years?
Yeah, I would say definitely in 10 years it has gotten, but within the last 5 years we've seen TSMC obviously is building out their facility, and TSMC is the large player. I'd say probably they're at like 60% of the market.
Right, and it's the Taiwanese semiconductor manufacturing company, right?
Yes, you are correct.
TSMC.
Yes, TSMC. So there's a lot of different players out here, specifically like Amkor for one. They're kind of doing that packaging. They're not actually building the semiconductors, but they're packaging. So it kind of, there's so many different markets to play in. Applied materials, that's where you're getting kind of most of the materials to build out the semiconductors. So there's so many different like businesses out here that you could join. You can join kind of at one that's not TSMC, who's like your top dog. You can kind of get in a little bit lower and grow with the company as well. Obviously Intel is expanding and getting involved in that space. So there's so many opportunities out here. There's so many different companies that are warehoused. I just heard EMD Electronics. They have 2 different locations here. So
and they're global.
And they're global, of course,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So just lots happening here in Arizona. And then we obviously have the CHIPS Act and the incentives going into having massive hiring initiatives and just growing Arizona for SEMI. So.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. If a student was interested in learning more about your company, where could they go to get more information?
Yeah, so you can connect with me personally on LinkedIn. My name's Nicole Larson if you want to, but you can also look us up. We're Brooksource. We're online. You can look for jobs to apply to on LinkedIn as well. We typically work with that kind of contract to hire role, more permanent roles. So we don't do as much of the internship stuff, but we love to meet students and form those relationships that when they're ready to kind of get to the point to apply to jobs, we can help them through that and get them placed at the right companies that they're happy and they're going to stay.
Great, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nicole. And you might have some students reaching out to you.
Yeah, of course. I would love to see anyone in my messages for LinkedIn. Go ahead and DM me.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. We'll be right back with the next interview.